Hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Real Talk Sports. I'm your host, Christopher Patrick, and my best friend slash co-host, Anthony Winecoop. How's it going, brother, man?
It's going good, man. It's going real good.
All right, thank you for the coffee hour here. Let's get to it, man. I want to talk about the draft today, the NFL draft to be exact. We'll get to that later on in the show. That's kind of how we'll finish things. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the NBA playoffs, especially the West Coast, because they got 4 teams right now fighting for that 6th, 7th, and 8th spot. On the East, I think it's pretty much sealed deal. I don't think Chicago makes it. I think Piston holds on. They get that 8th spot, and everything else is pretty much sealed. So as much as the East Coast is actually playing really good this year, surprisingly, there's some teams out there.
They're definitely playing a lot better than they did in the recent years. So yeah, it's definitely a good East Coast race.
Yeah, but I definitely want to get more into this West Coast. I want to talk about the Warriors reaching 73. Do you think that's a possibility? What's going on with that?
I think it's a real big possibility. It's just, the Chicago Bulls definitely probably should be a little worried because I think the record's about to get broke, especially by the teams that the Warriors got left on their schedule. I'm going to run it down for you guys. They got Boston coming up. Then they play Portland. They got the T-Wolves. They got San Antonio, Memphis, San Antonio again, and then Memphis. And I'm going to highlight the San Antonio-Memphis games, the first two, because I think if San Antonio-Memphis play their full roster and do the best they can and try to beat Golden State, then I think maybe the record would be in damage then. But if they don't and they take the nights off, I really think the Warriors are going to get that 73 record.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt they'll get that 73. I think Boston, they manhandled them earlier this season. I think Portland left a bad taste after the All-Star break. So I think, they got a little grudge, a little rivalry. I wouldn't say a rivalry, but it's building a rivalry going on there with that. I think they win that. The T-Wolves, you never know what you're going to get out of young cats.
Hey, they're a young team. They're young and hungry. I mean, you definitely got to worry about Andrew Wiggins. Karl-Anthony Towns has definitely been playing really good. So that could be a trap game, maybe.
It may push to a fourth quarter pullout. And then this is where it really gets me because I know you got the Spurs and Memphis being I see Memphis as a team that's sinking fast. I mean, they just lost another game. So really, I think San Antonio on purpose does not play any of their players. I think they want to kind of leave some tricks in the bag for the playoffs.
That makes sense. I mean, you don't want to, Popovich has always been that kind of rest everybody guy. These games aren't that important, especially with them already having a playoff spot locked up.
Yeah, so. and nobody's going to, OKC's not going to catch them. And then on top of that, you play Golden State twice in less than a week. I mean, you don't want to bring everything out then. It's too close of games, too close to each other. So I think he ends up just resting and he takes those L's. And this is going to be the thing, though. So if Warriors beat Boston, Portland, T-Wolves, Spurs, and Memphis, the Warriors can rest.
Yeah.
Rest, so it might just, those last couple of games just might not even mean anything. They might not have anybody in those games anyways. Let's head down to the 6th seed, which Portland currently holds, which in my opinion, they have the toughest schedule out of the rest of the teams.
So for Portland's last remaining schedule, they got Boston, Miami, Golden State, the Kings, OKC, T-Wolves, and Denver. And from my personal opinion, Portland does have the toughest schedule because, to play basically 5 playoff caliber teams in a row right now. T-Wolves and Denver, those are, obviously the tough. They're going to be tough West Coast teams, but they're kind of trailing in the wrong way. Boston, playoff caliber team in the East.
Well, they beat them last time, too, by a big margin.
Exactly. Miami, top caliber team in the East. They're definitely playing.
They beat them last time, actually.
Boston and Miami actually are competing for that 3 spot anyway, so these games are very important to them, too. We all know Golden State is going to be a challenge. The Kings, they should have been a playoff team, so they're definitely going to be tough. The Thunder, Russell, Kevin Durant. So I think Portland's got the really hardest schedule, which is kind of, for me, going to make them earn that 6th spot if they can win half those games.
They're 2 games away from the other 3 teams that are fighting for a playoff spot. That's how close it is. The other 2 teams are sitting at 37, 38. Right now, Portland is sitting at 30. I think 38 and 39 and 39 and 37. So every game counts at this point. There's no days off for these teams. Portland facing Boston is huge because Boston, Marcus Smart, Avery Bradley, Isaiah Thomas, they got into Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum in a big way. Miami Heat, once again, like you said, they want to compete with Boston right now to lock up that seed for matchup purposes. And Heat, granted, they struggled against LA last night, but LA, clicks on, clicks off. Yeah. I wouldn't, think too much of it. Golden State Warriors fighting for that, a place in history. Mm-hmm. Those are 3 potential straight losses. Could knock them completely out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Then you go up against the Kings where you don't know what you're getting out of, that squad with Cousins and Rudy Gay.
And on top of that, for that game, that's probably going to be the game where George Karl does play all his starters, because the last time they played the Kings, Monday, they set pretty much everybody. They played just the backup. So I could see this being a game where, George Karl brings Boogie, Rondo, all the big guys.
OKC with the Westbrook, on a hot streak that he's been on, and they kind of need to prove themselves they can close games out.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that lost in the fourth to Portland. Mm-hmm. That Damian Lillard went off for a 40-point game. I think he had like 15 points in the fourth. Beat OKC. I think they want to prove to themselves they can close this game out. And then the last two, T-Wolves and Denver, I mean, no offense, they're jokes. I mean, those are 2 dubs. But I think Portland actually, with the last schedule they have, I don't think they stay in the playoffs. But that's just personally me. And we're going to explain more why, because of the schedule that Houston, Dallas, and Utah has. Let's go to Houston next. What do you got going on for them?
So for the Houston Rockets, the remaining schedule they have the Bulls, the Thunder, the Dallas Mavericks, Phoenix Suns, the T-Wolves, and the Kings. Very easy schedule. Looks pretty light. Mainly the top 3 games are kind of their tough ones. The last 3 should be wins, should be cakewalks. I mean, I guess the Kings could play maybe spoiler at the end, but the Bulls, they're treading down. They can't keep a chance, at the playoffs. It looks like they're not going to make it. We already kind of discussed the Thunder. Dallas, they're fighting for their playoff lives, obviously. And Phoenix, being a young team, should be an easy win. Like we said, the last 2, the Kings could be the spoiler.
Yeah, I definitely see the Kings being a spoiler. Houston, I think they'll win against the Bulls. I think the Bulls are going to get, eliminated. But it's not the end for the Bulls, and I'll explain why actually on the next matchup. I think Houston beat the Bulls. I don't think they beat the Thunder, even though they beat them last time. I think the Thunder stay strong. They hold their ground. They win that game. I do think they win against Dallas. The Suns, I mean, I could beat the Suns. That's not saying too much. I think that's a lot. I think the T-Wolves, they just happen to be on the wrong end of the stick when it comes to what's going on. They got tough teams. And Kings, I think they can win that. So I think they split that 3-3. I think they make it to the 7th seed in the playoffs. Possibly 6. Depending on how everything else falls. Let's go to Dallas. Dallas is next up on the list, sitting at the 8. Who do they got?
So for Dallas's remaining schedule, they got Detroit, the T-Wolves, Houston Rockets, Memphis, the Clippers, Jazz, and the Spurs. Medium-sized schedule. Detroit's definitely a really tough team. We already talked about the T-Wolves. Houston, that's going to be a big matchup for them just because it is a seeding thing. Memphis also, even though they're kind of beat up, it's still a very kind of tough team. Clippers, they're right there at that 3-4 matchup, so they're going to play hard. The Jazz, that's a team that's really competing. Gordon Hayward going to give it all. And the Spurs, this one's probably a Popovich sit-down.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. I think they actually beat Detroit. That's why I said I think the Bulls are saved in this one, because they're fighting with Detroit for the 8th in the East. I think Detroit loses this game against Dallas, which keeps the Bulls alive for a playoff spot. The T-Wolves, like I said, wrong end of the stick. They're going to get demolished. Houston, this is a game that we talked about. I said Houston will win this game to keep the 7th or even the 6th seed. Memphis, like I said, they're on a spiral down. I don't think they win this game. Matter of fact, I didn't even know they had Jordan Farmar on the team as their starting point guard right now. So that's just my faith in them. Clippers, I think, win. Utah, I think, actually wins this game. I think they're on fire right now. And I think the Spurs, once again, they sit. So Dallas probably, let's take a look here. 1, 2, 3. I think they win 4 out of that 4 that's left. So once again, I think they slip to the 8th seed of the West. Let's go to the Jazz.
So for Utah, their remaining schedule, they got the T-Wolves, the Suns, Spurs, the Clippers, Denver, and the Lakers to end the season. For me personally, They got the easiest schedule out of all
they got
of
an
them.
easy schedule.
The only real tough two teams they got are the Spurs and the Clippers. Everything else should be a walk. So if you're a Utah Jazz fan, it seems like you definitely should either A, keep that 8th spot or even move up to the 7th.
You know, I think they move to the 6th. I think they win all those games. I don't think the T-Wolves compete with them. I don't think the Suns sure as heck don't compete with them. And the Spurs, because it's in Utah, so it's not threatening the Spurs' home record. I think Popovich sits that one out.
Probably.
The Clippers, I think, once again, you know, because it's the last couple of games, I think CP3 sits. I think they pretty much locked up the 4. You know, so I don't think they play half the people on there. Denver, unfortunately, I know that's your squad, but they're kind of poop out of luck.
Yeah.
The Lakers, I mean, they're the Lakers. I mean, yeah, they gave you know, Miami a good run for their money. Did they win that game?
The Lakers did by 2.
By 2, yeah.
2.
But it's not you know what, Roy Hibbert kind of came out the casket a little bit. It's good to see, you know, off topic a little bit. It's good to see Dragic be a little more aggressive. I've been waiting for this all year. You paid the man like $80 million to run an offense. It's good to see him come out and actually run. They sat Kobe at, you know, halfway through the first throughout the whole game. He's done with his career.
It was kind of crazy. I mean, Julius Randle did have a good game in that game also. For me, to go back on topic, I think that Clipper game, it actually has more importance because I believe, if I remember reading, I think that's the Blake Griffin return game. Just maybe Blake Griffin maybe wills the Clippers, in my opinion, to a small little spoiler win.
I still don't even think they play Blake Griffin. I think
they might not. I mean,
if they do, they play him a quarter.
Yeah, they could probably give him a quarter just to get him going because I know he's
maybe a half
serving that suspension. I think that's the return game. So
yeah. So this is my breakdown. I think the 6th actually is Utah because of the schedule. I think the 7th is going to be Houston, and I think Dallas remains at the 8th. I think Portland gets knocked out of it just because of schedule-wise. Now
I could see it. I mean, it's a very tough schedule. I mean, you know, non-biased, like that is very, very hard. I mean, to play Boston, Miami, Golden State, and the Kings.
Well, those first
Thunder,
4 games, or those first 5 games,
that's all playoff caliber teams, and it's very tough.
But you're in the first 5 games, you're playing against teams that have something to prove. I mean, you got a Warriors team that's searching history. You got the Heat in Boston trying to capture home court advantage at this point. There's just too much going on in that schedule and too much teams that want it more compared to the other schedule. I mean, like I said, Utah could easily win out the rest of the season. And
if they lose to the T-Wolves and Suns, that's very disappointing. I mean, honestly, T-Wolves and the Suns are very young teams, so they can run with anybody. They can, keep up the scoring. But yeah, to me, Utah's got the very easy schedule. Should be a good situation for them to move themselves up or stay where they're at.
Yeah, I agree. And so just off topic, I'm going to throw this out there so I can have you on record. Who's your MVP this year?
Damian Lillard.
All right. That's on record. Not happening. So we're gonna switch to NFL draft, and I want to point out something about the NFL draft that I like compared to NBA draft. When you look at NFL draft, I mean, most of these players, I would say probably like 85% of these players are coming out of college.
Yeah.
And you kind of get to watch them, and there's so many different college teams out there. There's over 200 and some odd college teams that are Division A that you get to watch. It's not like NBA where like you watch these college player, but you never see these overseas player, and then you get somebody like a Porzingis that slips in somewhere, and you're like, whoa, where did this come from? Because you never really get to watch him. So I'm gonna run down the first 8 on the draft, and then we're gonna do a little, and this is gonna be an offensive draft pick. Mind everybody out there that's listening, we're not focusing on defense. We're gonna do defense next week.
Yep.
If we were these teams and we want to pick the best offensive choice, this is what we're going to go. So I'm going to go to top 8 because that sits at the 9 and 10 is going to be Tampa and the Giants. And honestly, I don't think they go offensive at all. So it almost would be, to me, ridiculous to try to get an offensive player for them when I think they're going to go defense heavy. So starting at the number 1 overall pick, it's going to be Tennessee. Number 2 is going to be the Browns. Then San Diego, Cowboys, Jacksonville, the Baltimore Ravens, San Francisco 49ers, and Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm gonna start with you. Who do you have as your number one pick overall?
For me, I have the Titans going with the offensive tackle Laremy Tunsil from Ole Miss, just because I believe that the Titans need to get a good defender, a good offensive guy to keep Mariota clean, someone that can block, someone that can also, help him when he wants to do, his running in case they want to run some more read options. So I'm going to go with the tackle from Ole Miss.
I like that pick. I like that pick a lot. You definitely want to get Marcus some help. I think he had a lot of help this year. He didn't take a lot of sacks this year. And a lot of those hits were, once again, outside the pocket. And once you run past your offensive line, it's no longer your offensive line job to protect you.
That is very true. I just think for like his passing situation, I think this Tunsil guy would be really good to kind of keep him upright in case they're playing like a J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
To say that.
I'm going to say let's get him some more help on the receiver end. I went receiver on this one. I went Laquan Treadmill. I think, guy out of Mississippi, a wide receiver. He's a big guy, runs route. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Sammy Watkins with the size and the hands. I didn't see that he was terribly too fast, but he runs routes good enough to where, he could be definitely a good option to give Marcus some more help. Let's go to the second pick overall. We're going the Browns. Mind everybody, they sign RG3 to a 2-year deal worth with bonuses up to $22 million. Who do you pick at your second round?
For me, I got Jared Goff out of California because I know they did just take RG3, but I still believe Jared Goff is going to be their quarterback. I think they let RG3 play maybe half the season, see how he does, and then I think they take in and put the rookie in there. So I got Jared Goff going to the Browns.
I was tempted to go quarterback at first, but it's all really going to fall if Josh McCown stays. Because I know that Denver actually reached out interest for Josh McCown.
Yep.
So let's just say Denver decides that Mark Sanchez is their guy. We're not going to go get another quarterback because we're saving tons of money with Mark Sanchez anyways.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't go get a quarterback. I think they need it. I went actually. I think offensive tackle, that Tinsley would have been a good Ole Miss guy to go there and help with blocking with RG3 to stay more in the pocket. But I actually went Evan Ingram, the tight end out of Ole Miss, another guy out of Ole Miss. I think that he's a good offensive, if you want to do the dinky dunk passes, as well as he's the best tight end blocker. And sometimes I think tight end blocking is a little underrated. If you want to bring another guy into that line to block to help RG3, as well as maybe slip out and catch some balls, I think he'd be a really good option.
Yeah, it definitely goes underrated because obviously everybody's looking for the Rob Gronkowski style tight ends. They want the guy that can just go down there and stretch the field. But the blocking tight end is very helpful also in the run game too. I mean, if you're trying to establish a running game, that's also a good pick. So yeah, I like that pick too.
So we're going to go number 3 here with San Diego. Who's your offensive pick for San Diego?
For me, I go with the Laquan Treadwell guy out of Ole Miss. I think you give Phillip Rivers one more deep threat target to also go with the guy, Travis Benjamin, they got from the Browns. I also think he's got good speed. So, like I said, another good deep threat. His hands are pretty good. And on top of that, you just get another, good, really wide open receiver to go with Benjamin and Keenan Allen also.
Yeah, I went wide receiver also with San Diego. I mean, you signed Phillip Rivers back. He didn't have a number 1 option. I think this is a good year. But because, Treadmill went number 1 in my draft, I actually went with Tyler Boyd.
Okay.
I think that this guy is quick. He is fast. A little on the smaller end of a wide receiver. But, the guy can get the job done. Once again, give Phillip Rivers. The guy's consistently a 4,000-yard thrower. He'll find ways to get this guy involved.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's head off to the Cowboys at the 4th overall pick. Who you got going for the Cowboys?
I got the Dallas Cowboys taking Carson Wentz. They finally get somebody to back up Tony Romo that has some meaning. The Dallas Cowboys take the Carson Wentz guy.
I actually went quarterback too because I felt the way you felt. I think that you have one more year left with Tony Romo. I think if he stays healthy this year, you sign him to another maybe 2-year deal, and that's why I didn't go Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz is a ready now quarterback. I think when you were looking at the Cowboys, you want a guy that could be like an Aaron Rodgers, a guy that's going to sit on the bench for a couple of years, come in and give you. So I went actually Cody Kessler. Okay. Out of USC. I think USC is more NFL-ready offense that they run over there, as well as Cody Kessler is, this guy's about 6'1", 215 pounds. He's not ready now. But if you sit him behind Tony Romo maybe 2-3 years from now, he will be ready.
That makes sense. I mean, I just went with Carson Wentz. I'm done with Tony Romo. I know they're ready to keep it going, but I think it's time that you get yourself a replacement. And I even think Carson Wentz, even though he is ready now, he probably will sit a year. But, I mean, if I'm a Cowboy fan, I want the guy that they're saying is ready now in a lot of other places, Carson Wentz.
Off topic a little bit. I love how everybody wants to bring up the Mark Sanchez butt fumble.
Yeah.
Why does nobody ever bring up the Tony Romo, the punt fumble, never, get past the first round incident?
I think they're just trying to forget because Tony Romo's playing for the Dallas Cowboys, but I did not forget it, sir. I remember it.
I remember it like it was yesterday. I think it was more crucial than the butt fumble.
Yeah, it lost him a playoff game.
It lost him a playoff game, and not to mention Mark Sanchez led to 2 conference finals.
Exactly, sir.
Divisional championships, whatever you want to call it. All right, so we got sitting at 5, Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this is a team that intrigues me. Who do you got going with them?
I got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Derrick Henry out of Alabama. I believe they go with the big man and have a 2 Alabama running back set with them having T.J. Yeldon last year. Now you get his running mate from college. I think on top of that, it's a very good pick. Very, very fast and very physical running back right here. Got the Jaguars taking Derrick Henry.
I like that. I actually went running back too. And just for the record, everybody, we did not look at each other's lists before this. We did our own thing and we came together. So we definitely got the positions we want. Just different players here. I went Nick Chubb, running back out of Georgia, the Bulldogs. He's 5'10", 220. Big boy. Once again, the double-headed dragon. But I think this guy actually is going to be your every down back. Yeah. I don't think they do double dragon.
Yeah.
I think they go ahead and they stick with a big guy, somebody that Blake Bortles can hand off the ball, 20 times. And the guy's going to take a lot of punishment. Because that offensive line is not great.
It's getting there, but it's still got some work.
It's got a lot of work to do. And if you can get a guy that can take a lot of hits, that can impact and just run people over, I think Nick's your man. All right, so we're going to go to the
Baltimore Ravens.
Baltimore Ravens, sitting at 6. Yeah, that's right. Who do you got them going? This is your team, so this is crucial for you.
For me, I got him taking Will Fuller. He's a deep threat, stretching wide receiver. He's very fast. He ran, I think, one of the top fastest 40s at a 4.3 at the combine. Very explosive guy. Someone that I think Joe Flacco would like to go alongside with Mike Wallace. So now we have basically 3 really good fast wide receivers if you count Brashard Perriman. Will Fuller is the pick for me.
Yeah. I went wide receiver on this one. I went Rashard Higgins, actually, out of Colorado State. 6'2", 180 pounds. And mainly what size with this one. Because, I was looking at my list and I was watching some tape. And I didn't see a lot of wide receivers this year that were, 6'4"-ish. So I think 6'2" is kind of like the cap limit this year for height. But I went Rashard Higgins mainly because if Perriman comes back and he's healthy, you got Mike Wallace. You're going to need a guy that can come in and do third downs for you. You're going to need a slot guy, a possession guy. And I think you got Mike Wallace, deep threat. You got Perriman, that's their deep threat.
Yep.
You don't really have a possession guy. You have that tight end that's pretty nice.
We got Watson and Crockett Gilmore, so yeah.
So I think you need a third down guy that's going to come in, kind of like the Raiders' Seth Roberts guy that comes in on third down and makes those in the middle of the field plays. So that's why I went Rashard Higgins.
Good pick.
Okay, let's go 7 to San Francisco. Who do you got going to San Fran?
I got Chip Kelly taking a Michigan State guy. I got Connor Cook, the quarterback. To me, he looks average, gonna be your basic, can do everything quarterback. Not gonna do too much that stands out, but I think with this quarterback controversy we got going on in Frisco with Cap and Blaine Gabbert, I think Connor Cook comes in and I think he steals everybody's thunder and he's gonna be their starting quarterback.
Ooh. All right, my man. We got that on recording, that's for sure. I did go quarterback too. I think I don't know what's going on with Kaepernick's situation. If he's going to be there, if he's not going to be there. For value purpose, San Francisco's going to get the most if he stays. But I don't think he mentally wants to be there. I think he's already sold of going somewhere else. And then after this year, I think he'll go somewhere else anyways. So I think he doesn't play. Blaine Gabbert is your next guy. But once again, you take a look. You got Chip Kelly coming in. He runs a certain system. And this is why I went with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. He's a 6'2" guy out of Clemson. He threw for 4,104 yards, 35 TDs, with a percentage rating of 67%. But he's got legs.
Yeah.
The guy can run, and I think you match an arm with the running. I think it fits. It will fit a Chip Kelly system better than the guys actually have.
That sounds like a good pick.
So we're gonna finish off with Philadelphia. That's gonna be our 8th. Who do you got going to Philly?
I got Josh Doctson out of TCU. He's a deep threat, very tall. I think he's about that 6'3", 6'4", just about that range that we were talking about where he's kind of not sure. So I also think he'd be a good pick for Philadelphia because of some fact that they kind of have shorter wide receivers, and it's also they're probably a good pick to get someone that they still looking for to replace Jeremy Maclin. So I think Josh Doctson would be that good pick right there at 8.
It's not a bad pick. I mean, to be honest, with Philadelphia, you can go any position at this point with them. I mean, there's no wrong picks with this team. They got a lot of holes they need to fill, and they got a lot of chemistry they need to rebuild after the whole Chip Kelly blow up. I actually went with a QB. I think they're not sold, even though they gave him. I mean, they were sipping the Sam Bradford tea.
Yeah.
And that team was mighty strong because they signed him to a deal that he is not worth. I think they actually go and get Carson Wentz for this. He's a 6'5". 6'5" guy. First of all, the size alone fits the Philadelphia kind of scheme. He's a pocket QB. Didn't see much of him last year. He only threw for 1,651 yards, 17 TDs, and I think like 4 INTs because of injuries. And I know people say, like, well, why would you get a quarterback that's injured, when you already got a quarterback that's injured? Well, this guy had a wrist problem. It wasn't like, the Sam Bradford glass legs or Sam Bradford glass soul.
And on top of that, he is younger. He's a younger guy. You can kind of work on his injury-prone situation. So I think that'd be a good pick, too.
Yeah, I think they go quarterback. When you're a team that has a lot of problems in different areas, you gotta secure your most important area, which is your quarterback first, and then you build something around that. And not to mention, that's one thing I love about the NFL draft is you can get players in the 3rd, 4th round that are going to produce better than players you get sometimes out of the 1st round. So they got a lot of draft picks this year, and they got a lot of holes they can fill.
Yeah.
So on that note, I mean, that pretty much concludes our, short mock draft. Next week, we're going to work on the defensive side of things because we all know that there's always that Mario, Williams guy that slips in at number 1 that we, didn't think was going to slip. So we're going to go defensive side on each of these teams and who do we think we're going to take defense. And actually, what we're going to do next week, too, is we're not going to do the same teams. We're going to go Tampa on. The next 8 teams.
I like that.
And we're going to talk defense for them because actually when I was looking at a lot of mock drafts and a lot of different things, most of them were going defensive oriented. I mean, like the Raiders are going to go defense. Tampa Bay, I think, is going to go defense. Giants, the so-called LA Rams, I think are going to still fill defensive needs. So I think that's good. So is there anything you want to touch base before we conclude this?
The one running back that I didn't mention was Ezekiel Elliott. It's just because for me, Derrick Henry seemed like the more proven running back and the more together running back, but I could be very wrong with this Carson Wentz spot here for Ezekiel Elliott could also be there too. So I mean, at any point, these running backs, Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, I think we're going to come off the board very quick and early because they're the top 2. Outside of that, man, I believe this show was well today.
Yeah. And going off of running backs, I mean, running backs, in today's NFL mindset, NFL teams feel like they could pick a running back up anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I don't have too many running backs going off my top 10 or even top 15 right now. I have like one, which I think will be good. Like I said, Nick Chubbs. I mean, you got, Ezekiel Elliott. And there's some, they're going to go, but there's not too many is going to go. But, I got a word of advice for all my viewers and fans out there is, bros before Blas. Because if you are your man Russell right now,
Ooh, D'Angelo Russell, yeah.
and you're supposed to be the face of the franchise, the last thing you want to do is sell your bro out. The guy that you travel with, the guy that you play games with, the guy that, you literally are around more times than anybody else in your family. And that's just not cool. I just want to point that out. If you have a chance to listen to this D'Angelo Russell, you are on my poop list. You do not sell your brother out. You do not sell the guy that you go to battle with every night for 82 games, 160 different practices, a guy that you travel on the plane with, you go to hotels with, the guy that's probably going to be at your wedding when that day comes. Now he was your best man. Now he's the guy that's going to be like, I oppose.
And this is another reason why I like the NFL draft, just to keep this on topic. The NFL requires people to at least play 3 years of college, where the NBA is like one and done. This is the problem here. D'Angelo Russell was a 1-year guy, 19-year-old.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Immature.
You putting up only 13 points this year and looking like the worst out of all the top picks this year. I mean, Porzingis, the guy that they booed.
Yeah.
A guy they booed. They booed him. Is showing out more than D'Angelo Russell. I don't know where LA was going with this. And D'Angelo Russell, you got a lot of growing up to do, my man. You got a lot of growing up. You don't snitch players out. He talked to you in confine. Regardless of what his issues are or what he does, that's something he could deal with Iggy. I don't know why, but that's something he could deal with Iggy. Because she's so fancy. And they can work out all their problems.
Either way, I think it was a really, really bad look. Definitely, you don't want to sell out your bros. Should have just kept it between them. And on top of that, man,
you're in LA, bro. You don't think the fans are going to take heed to that? They booed you on introduction. You don't think they're going to... LA's all about tabloid and media. They're going to remember this for a long time. And when I was looking at the LA game, I just want to bring up this last point. I know I'm yabbering on, but for the first time in my life, I grew up during the Magic, Magic Johnson, the Larry Birds, the Isaiah Thomas, the MJs of the world. But not once have I ever seen on the 100th row, that's one row up from courtside, there ever be empty seats in the LA Lake Arena. Even when they had Smush Parker, Chris Mintz,
Kwame
Brown, they still filled every seat. This is the first time I've ever seen the Lakers not fill every seat and see so many gaps in that fan.
Well, because the Kobe Bryant retirement tour can only last so long, and after a while, teams are going to get tired of it. Fans are going to get tired of it. And it's baseball time, man.
It is baseball time.
You got the Angels. You got the Dodgers. Fans are like, man, I might as well go spend my money on somebody that's about to actually prove point. The Lakers are starting to lose their shine, but luckily for them, they are young.
That is true. And speaking of MLB, we're going to be speaking about that in 2 weeks. So next week we're going to do defensive side of the draft, the next 8, and then after that we're gonna hit up MLB. We're gonna do a little MLB.
Yeah, gotta get ready. It's opening days coming up around here. Around the 4th or 5th, I think it is. So yeah, definitely want to kind of give our opinions on what we think is going to happen. As a Yankee guy, I'm hoping, but I understand we're about 2 years away. We're still young, so
yeah. Well, save that. We're going to get to that. Sorry. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Like us, share, comment, all that internet gooey stuff that you guys do nowadays. But more importantly, just listen and have fun. Comment. Tell me your thoughts and opinions.
Have a good day, folks. Have a good day.
Have a good day. On that note, you guys take care.